Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Ashley Barlow Company podcast. I'm Ashley Barlow, your host. If you are a parent, a teacher, or someone who works at a school, or you're a community member, a volunteer, or a staff member at an organization that supports people with special education plans, a coach, a tutor, or even a grandparent, you're in the right place. Sit back with an ice-cold glass of lemonade, put on your walking shoes and grab some headphones, roll down the windows and cruise. Ready, set, go. Educate, advocate, collaborate.
Welcome back to another episode of Special Education Advocacy with Ashley Barlow. I'm Ashley Barlow, and I'm so happy you're here. So last week, we talked about one of my favorite resources that we have here at Ashley Barlow Company. We talked about the club, the monthly membership. And, in the summertime, we usually take a little bit of a break for most episodes. Not all episodes are super short and just me in the summertime, but a lot of them are. I plan these things based on data. I let the data drive the instruction. Oh, sorry, my computer. I cannot help my computer from making those sound. I turn everything off, like I don't have email notifications, I don't have anything else, and it'll pop up with like an article from Page 6 or something. I'm like, I'm Celebrity News. Why do you make that sound? Okay, so anyway, in the summertime, I do try, for the most part, to do shorter episodes for you. And something that we have never done here on the podcast is we have never talked about the products that I have. And frankly, I have been hesitant to do that because I have felt like that's like a little bit of a slimy sales tactic. However, I was talking to a business colleague not too long ago who said it's really not such a bad idea to sometimes talk about things very deliberately because people don't really know what your products are unless they hear you give like the 15-minute elevator pitch. And they can't see them unless they buy them, and they might not want to spend the money to buy the things. And so with that idea in mind, I decided to talk a little bit about one of my favorite products last week, which we did when we talked about the club, and the inclusion workshop today. So I want to talk to you about the inclusion workshop for a second today. And I want to start off talking about why inclusion is so important to me. So I now feel extremely comfortable talking about inclusion. I was about my journey with inclusion. I was thinking about this as I was planning the episode. And if you've been here long enough, you probably know that my own meeting was the meeting in my career that had the most people in it. It's now a tie. But when Jack was transitioning to kindergarten, we had a meeting the month of May of his 4-year-old preschool year, and it had 19 people at it. It was 17 people from the district and my husband, Brandon, and me. And I did just have another meeting with 19 people from a similar perspective that went a whole lot better than my meeting went at that time. But at that meeting, there were 5 or 6 administrators. And of those 5 or 6 people, only one is still at the district. And so I feel extremely, and that administrator never was in charge of my kids, I guess is how you would say it. And so I feel extremely comfortable talking about this now because my kids are out of that school and all those administrators are gone. And so, yeah. And the reason that I would not have felt comfortable is honestly to be respectful, because I believe that everybody sees things from different perspectives. And my perspective, my experience, my recollection this many years past that time might not be fair or respectful to the other people involved. However, now that is less important because they probably care a lot less too because they're retired or they've moved on to other districts. Anyway, uh, the long and short of it is our district had one self-contained classroom for children with what they call moderate to severe disabilities. And without any experience with Jack in a structured general education kindergarten, and rather only experience in a play-based classroom for preschool that did the exact same thing every single day. And by exact same thing, I mean for 2 years, he listened to the same CD with the same songs on it every single morning when he walked in. And our preschool is only open to students with disabilities, students that have free and reduced lunch eligibility, so uh, income-based eligibility, and tuition students. But at the time that Jack was there, I don't remember how many, but there were 2 or 3 tuition students that were teachers' kids. So there were not many general education, like true gen ed placements. And then in addition to that, Kentucky's preschool is play-based by regulation. And so there was no academics besides his IEP goals, like his one-on-one IEP work. So with only that experience and without any experience in observing Jack in a classroom, our district said, nope, he's got to go over to this moderate to severe classroom. And that classroom is at a school that's across town. And that was really, we all have reasons why that's offensive. That was offensive to me for the reasons that I just stated that are super objective. But I had actually bought my house in the district for this little elementary school. Now, we live in a super small little town, but our town traditionally gets the best test scores in the state of Kentucky for, from the Department of Ed. And so we're known to have really great schools. We're known to have really great educators. And I had really, really strong personal ties with our district. My mom had taught at our elementary school that was our home school. And one of the reasons why I bought my house in that elementary school. And of course, my older son was there. My brother and I went to that school. And there were reasons why, like social reasons and other personal reasons why I thought that was a better match for my family, for our interests and values, which is something that we talk about a lot here. And then this incredible personal tie was that because my mom had taught there, I personally knew probably 80% of the teachers really, really well, like well enough that they had bought me wedding gifts and baby gifts when Jack was born. And so there was this like really significant personal thing to it. And so, ultimately, fast forward, I do have an episode where I talk a little bit more about this, but that meeting was a complete disaster. At the end of it, the special ed director for the district told me to file due process, and I did not. I wish I had. I've said that 1,000 times in more context with more detail. That's not what this episode is about. But ultimately, in the whole early middle of summer, I don't remember the date, it came to an agreement, and Jack was able to at first try kindergarten at his home school. And within 6 months, the principal pulled me aside and said, he's ours. He belongs here. He is a student at this school, and I can't foresee any reason why he would not stay here through 5th grade. And so this is no longer a trial. And frankly, she said I wasn't a part of the decision to make it a trial. And I think that's ridiculous. He's mine, and we love him, and this is his home. And we got that sense of belonging that we all want. And that's the way it works. Now, I know it doesn't work that that easily, once kids are in school very often, Jack and our team was really, really blessed with incredible professionalism and teachers that really wanted to love him and to appreciate him. I had an emotional day yesterday. I didn't know this was going to make me cry. And do what was best for him. And truly, that's not even the educational standard, right? But that is what their standard was. And it was really, really great. However, I would say, and I have said before, that the discussion leading up to that meeting really started 9 months prior to our agreement. We had a meeting 9 months prior to that summer when he was barely 4 years old about kindergarten transition, and it was difficult from that point forward. And so we endured 9 months of expectations, preconceptions, predeterminations, just all around terrible judgment about our kid. And it was traumatic. It literally is the event that started my autoimmune symptoms, whether or not I had an autoimmune condition before. I don't know how that works, but that triggered my first autoimmune flare. I have Sjogren's, in case I've never said that on a podcast. It really, made it hard for me to be present and parenting Griffin. It made it hard for me to be present and doing my best at work. It was one of those stressors, as you probably know, that stayed kind of in the background of my mind at all times, all day long. And that makes it really, really, really difficult to advocate. And so I really dove into LRE. And what happened was as I dove into LRE, I realized that I kind of knew everything. Like I kind of knew the law is so simple, right? What's an idea. And there aren't many regulations, but the regulations that do exist are very helpful. They are very inclusion-minded. They are very thorough. And so I started to help other clients with the regulations in mind, and I started seeing success in doing that. But things seemed really like willy-nilly. Like it really kind of seemed interest-based and like, what's this district's beef? Okay, well, how can we get to their beef? And how can we bring objective information into their beef? And I just did not feel very organized. And the way I finally started to feel organized was when I started going to COPA and to ISEA, which is a rights law training that doesn't exist anymore. But I started to network with other professionals across the country. Kentucky now has a fair amount of special education advocates, but didn't at the time. And so, or at least I wasn't networked with them. And so I started networking with people that would ask me questions because they knew about my personal experience and how much work I was doing in this field professionally. And so I would start to get phone calls. And as I was talking to advocates, what happens when you talk to people that speak your own language is you're far more articulate and your thought process is a lot faster because they will take you someplace faster. And so really in those conversations where they were calling me for help, I was learning because I was teasing out the regulations in such a fast way. And I am super sorry if you hear the background of the Barlows. I woke up early to record this today, but we are early morning people, and so I did not beat my people. Griffin going to a swim meet, Jack's awake. Brandon, I think, is trying to talk to Jack, and Jack don't like it when Griffin leaves, so sorry. Anyway, that is an aside. I did have Brandon turn off the Today Show because I thought that would be annoying, and now you're getting a dysregulated kid that's waiting for some Ritalin to get pumping. So we got through. So as I talk to folks, I realized like, oh yes, like I would say something and be like, that's really good. I'm gonna take notes. And so, because, I'm constantly trying to help my clients and try to be more articulate. And, if you're a fan of the podcast, I use a lot of words. I am not like a very concise, pithy communicator. And so sometimes there are things that I'm like, gosh, I wish I could say that in fewer words. And my best friend and I always talk about this. I'm like, I like all your words. Say all of your words. Your words are important. But still, there's times that I think I could be more efficient in my communication. So I started recording myself. And from that, I started taking notes and making an outline. And from that outline, I created the inclusion workshop. So what the inclusion workshop does is it goes through the law. We start off with the federal law, which is, super easy. And that, just by the way, is located in 20 USC. That stands for United States Code 1412. And then the subsections are small a, lowercase a, 5, and then uppercase A. And then we go through the regulations, and there are several really good regulations. So at first, I just give you the law. And then in the video, I explain what all of those regulations mean. So I go through and explain them. Then I go through all of the United States Department of Education guidance.
It's really this now.
Honey, Mom's working a little bit. Do you want to sit on my lap?
Oh, what are you doing?
I just need about 10 minutes. Do you want to sit on my lap? I'm kind of doing something like a TikTok, a podcast. Would you like to sit with me? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, then can you please be quiet for about 5 or 10 more minutes? So then I go through everything that the Department of Ed has given us. This guy, we have some really good Dear Colleague medicine. And so I go through those. Dear, you're not being quiet. I go through those Dear Colleague letters and I give summaries of those because we've got really good information in those. And I've got those separated into things like placement decisions have to be made by the IEP team. And there's a preference for the homeschool, and children can't be removed solely because of needed modifications in gen ed, that sort of thing. Then we go through a case, and that's really just so that you get like, how does this work in real life with a real kid? And then what I do is I take from all of that we've just gone through, and I go through these practical applications. And this is really kind of like my aha from those things that I recorded when I was talking to advocates and clients. These are like, break it down simple. What do those things tell us? And what's a list? Like, what things should we be bringing in objectively into our discussions? And so I've got a pretty comprehensive list. It's probably, 3/4 of a page of it, like regular 8.5 by 11 page of paper. And so we run through that list, and on a few of them, I give additional information. So, when we talk about supplementary aids and services, I've got a list of, things that might help. When we talk about harmful effects or benefits to the child that's on the IEP and to the gen ed peers, I have lists of those as well. And then that kind of leads us to advocacy strategies. What communication strategies can you do? What other kinds of things can you talk about? What kind of like phrases are out there that are pretty common that help in your advocacy, etc. Then we talk kind of in detail about how a schedule can help in an LRE or inclusion discussion. And I give a really detailed explanation about how the schedule can help. And then we wrap it up. So that's the inclusion workshop. I think it is one of my more objective, practical resources that I've got on the website. It's something that I'm really proud of. It's something that I use in my practice probably at least once a week in a referral or a consult. And, it usually really gives people a lot of peace to see it all in one place. So that is the resource that I wanted to share with you today, the inclusion workshop. Of course, it's available for download over on the website. And I am available to do consultations in almost every state on inclusion topics if you just, want to walk through it with me and plug your child into those criteria that we're supposed to be looking at. I am happy to do that. So I hope you're having a great day. It's probably off to a better start than mine, as you could hear in the background. My guy's watching The Flash and doing some Legos, and I better go over and get to him. I will see you next week, same time, same place.